So today we're looking at slurs, and this is kind of a beginner to intermediate exercise for slurs. So what I'll do is I'll demonstrate the exercise and then give you a lesson on how to practice slurs and how to approach it. So let's first just go over the exercise. We're going to start with ascending slurs, or hammer-ons in guitar lingo. So this exercise is in every single guitar technique book. It's not unique to mine necessarily. But in the next video I do, we'll be doing a horizontal version of it, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. So this is a vertical builder. So we're going to slur 1, 2 first. I'll talk about some tips about slurs in a second. So essentially, you're doing that hammer-on with the second finger on each string. This is a good way to start off your practice of slurs because you can stay in one position of the guitar. The next video I do, we're going to be like traveling across the strings, but to make sure you first like solidify the technique with these vertical builders or across the strings. So that's the first example of 1 and 2. Let's just go through the other examples of the ascending versions, and then I'll give you some ascending slur tips. So the next one would be, we're going to go through all the combos. So the next one is 2, 3. Just make sure your hand is nicely aligned, you know, like this, and don't let the other fingers like be over wrong frets or anything like that. Just one finger per fret kind of rule. The next one would be 3, 4. This is a common problem for students, this group here, but sometimes it's very helpful if you just play that first and then do the slurs. And then 2, 4. And then 1, 4. And then 1, 3. So that's all your ascending slurs. So a couple of main tips. First thing, make sure your hand is properly aligned. If your hand is misaligned, then this is all going to be much more difficult. The other thing is make sure your finger just quickly snaps into the string. Instead of like coming in at an angle or overstretching, it has to be right above the string and fret, and then just as a machine just kind of come right down. It doesn't have to push hard though, it can just be very light. One thing you can do when I'm first teaching slurs to students, I'll often have them play the hammer-on aspect of it without the right hand. So just taking the finger here and going and trying to make the sound of the slur without any plucking of the right hand first. Because that gives the student a much more clear idea of what the left hand really has to do. Sometimes like you can kind of pull off a sloppy slur, like an unclear slur, or ascending slur or hammer-on because it kind of sounds okay, like but it's not that clear, right? But if we get a nice clear snap, then it'll probably be nice and clear when we actually play. So keep all the fingers aligned, keep your hand aligned, your knuckles parallel with the strings, and then just lightly snap directly down into the string. Only other tip I'll say is that students often like have, when they're practicing, they're not practicing rhythmically. They sometimes go like this. Because the movement of the slur is fast, they feel like they have to play the slur fast, but then rhythmically speaking, they're all out of whack. Play it as just even eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and make sure it's rhythmic so that you're training your fingers to be musical, because you don't, when you're playing your piece, if it says eighth notes, you don't want to suddenly do it faster than that for no reason. So it has to be rhythmic. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and with all the fingers, right? All those combinations that we talked about. And again, if you're having trouble getting a nice clean slur, just make sure your hand is aligned and that you're just able to lift the finger off and then just hammer on that string. Not with strength, but just with a reflexive light motion directly down into the fret. Okay, descending slurs. So same idea, we're going to go across the strings. This is the 2-1 descending slur, or pull off in guitar lingo. And of course we would go through all the combinations like 3-2, across the strings, and 4-3, or 4-2, or 4-1. Or 3-1. For descending slurs, I highly recommend that you try this out. Set your hand up, put both fingers down on those frets, and then this third, let's say we're doing 1-3 slurs. Let's do this, where your finger is actually going to pull into itself, into its palm, and also do like a rest stroke where it rests on the string below. Just like rest strokes in the right hand, we'll do a rest stroke in the left hand. So you can see I'm not playing anything there, but you just get a nice snap. So I recommend you practice this way. So practice with that clear snap down into that lower string, so you get a nice, clean, and clear descending slur or pull off. If you simply lift your finger off, it'll sometimes be okay, but you can see there, like especially on the nylon strings, see, it's so soft on the second note as opposed to plucking the string, right? There's nothing there. So when you're performing a piece, you can choose how much clarity you want. If you really pluck the string, you'll get a nice clean and clear slur or pull off. So the second note of the slur will be nice and clean and clear. If you just pull your finger just off the string, it'll be very quiet. The second note will be quiet and it'll be very smooth, but it won't be very clear. Sometimes we want that. We want like a nice relaxed and soft second note. For rhythmic reasons, or the style of music we're playing, or maybe the open string is ringing below and you can't touch that string or you'll stop the vibrations. But again, practice with that nice clean, clear slur, and then you can do varying levels of pull-off where you either touch the string or almost touch the string or just pull straight off. That varying degrees of the varying angles will allow you different levels of clarity on the second note, which could suit different types of music, right? So you just go through getting a nice clean sound. And again, be careful of rhythmic displacement. You don't want to do it like this, like many students do when they first come back with slurs. Because they think the slur is fast. But it's not. If it's written as eighth notes, it's still just eighth notes. So you have to make sure like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and if you're having trouble with that downward snap idea, one thing you could try is actually like strumming the strings with the left hand. I'm just muting the strings right now, but like going like this. That's kind of the motion that you use. If you're bypassing the string below, you might do more of like a little bit of a pull out Or if you want a very soft second note, you'll just lift your finger off the string and it'll be nice and soft. And you don't have to worry about hitting the string below because you'll just be lifting straight off the string. So you could either lift straight off the string or snap. Both being very important. But usually with students, their slurs are not clear. They're not very strong, they're not very clear. So I would recommend that you practice with that snappy left hand. That way you build up that clarity, because you can back away from that clarity very easily. But if you don't have that clarity, you don't have access to it. And then when you're playing your piece and you notice that it's sloppy or mushy, you can't add the clarity because you haven't practiced doing that. So practice getting a nice clear snap out of the second note, and then you can decide in your pieces whether you want to have a lot of clarity or a really soft second note. So on the next video we do, we're going to do horizontal slurs, so going up and down the neck this way. But that was what I would call the vertical ones.